Alright, so today I'm going to show you how to automate invoicing from taking orders via WhatsApp. I think a lot of small and medium businesses take their orders via WhatsApp or Telegram. So we're going to show you how you can automatically generate your invoices from this to take away a lot of manual work. So here is a diagram which kind of gives you an overview of how the process works. What we're going to do is we're going to hook up a WhatsApp account to BotPress, which is a chatbot platform. And it's gonna BotPress is gonna help us manage the conversation flow. It's gonna gather all of the necessary information we need to generate a quote. First, we're gonna generate a quote, and then that's when the information gets passed to N8N. All right, and with N8N, there are two workflows. One, which is when we're taking the order from the customer. Once all of the information is collected, it's passed on to Xero, where a quote is generated. And then we have a secondary workflow, which is for the management on the business side. And the business side, the management gets notified when a new order has been placed. So then the management gets the option to whether approve or reject the order. There are actually three options, pretty much yes, no, and escalate. Yes is pretty straightforward. It means yes, the order has been accepted, and then from the quote we generate an invoice. And then escalate means it's pretty much a definitive no. So what we do in this particular case is, for edge cases or for some really complicated orders, for whatever reason, you cannot really automatically generate an invoice. What we could do is you want to submit it for manual review, so that's what escalate would work for. And then the other option is no. No isn't a complete no. It's simply if you would like to make a modification to the current order. Let's say, for example, if you don't have enough items in stock, you may want to reduce the amount of products being requested. Or if you want to, say, provide a discount. So let's say, oh, this is a regular customer, this is a big order, I'm going to give them a, 10 or 15% discount. So, and that one is the more interesting option, because there we have a little bit of assistance from AI to help us decide which course to go and how to help us make the calculations to apply the discount. All right. So in order to begin, first I'm going to make you, before I show you how to set this whole thing up, I'm just going to give you a quick demo of how it works. So this is the N8N workflow for receiving the orders on the customer side. I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to put in an order. I'm going to start the workflow just so you can see it actually running. And I'm going to go ahead and hop on WhatsApp, and I'll pretend to be a customer. I'm going to go ahead and tap on hi. I actually need to record this. Wait. Just a moment. Alright, here we go. Alright, I'm recording. Alright, so hi, the chatbot asked me what would you like to order? Let's say polymailers. Should ask me which size polymailers I want. Here we go, the small one or the larger one. I'm going to go for the larger one. And I'm going to go ahead and order maybe something like 35 of those. How many would you like? 35. And now it should be running the N8N workflow. You can see it running right there actually. Everything's going according to plan, and the workflow executed successfully. So now if we go to our Xero account and we hit refresh, here we go. quote was generated, and if we go in to view the details, you can see polymailer medium. Here's the price and the total, and here you go. The quote was generated. Okay, so now that the quote has been created, what we need to do now is to actually generate the invoice from the quote. And as you can see, well, the invoice has been generated, but if we go to Invoices, the invoice still hasn't been generated because obviously it needs to be approved first, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the N8N automation so that you can actually see it working. And I'm gonna get on my phone, and we can see that we have already received a message here, order approval request. Session ID, the item, it's polymailer 32 by 45 centimeters, and it's 35 of those for a total of $22.75. Reply with yes, no, or escalate. Let's see what happens when you just answer with a straightforward yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick yes, and this should run the automation, and here you can see it running, and the quote has been accepted. The invoice has been created and the workflow executed successfully. So now if we go to Xero and you hit refresh, you should be seeing that the invoice has been generated. And here it is, 35 polymailers, $22.75. Okay, so now we've kind of hit the rewind button a little bit. So this is so I can show you what's going to happen if I decided to send an answer of no and a feedback. So this time, once again, the same order. Now here we have approval request and all of the details, but this time I'm going to answer no and provide some feedback. So I'm just going to go ahead and press no. Then it should come back asking me for some feedback. I'm gonna say, you know what, give 10% discount. Before I hit send, I'm gonna go ahead and activate the workflow so you can see it working. And I'm gonna hit send. So now the workflow should be running. It should go down the middle. There it does, getting the quote info, and now the AI agent is analyzing what it should do, and it should update the discount information, and the workflow executed successfully. So now, if I go back to the same quote, check it out. The previous amount was $22.75, but it should have a reduced price after a 10% discount. So let's see what the new total is. We're gonna go ahead and hit refresh. There you go. We have a new total amount of $20.65. It effectively applied a 10% discount. So now I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to set this up. Okay, so before we get things started, first I'm going to show you, we're going to be using an online database. For this case, we're going to be using Supabase. It doesn't have to be Supabase. Again, it could be Airtable, or it could even use a Google Sheet, like a Google spreadsheet for this. But we will be needing a lookup table where we can link the actual product name with the Xero item code, which I'm going to be explaining shortly. These are names that you designate as a reference to the product, and this is the actual name of the product, which is what we'll be using when the customers are placing their orders via WhatsApp. And we're going to be using this table to map each product name to their item code, because when then when the chatbot uses N8N to contact Xero, we're not going to be sending the product name, we're going to be sending the code, so that Xero knows exactly which is the product that's being ordered. So yeah, that's why we have this table. We have some basic details, depending on the kind of product that you're selling, but for this particular case, we have, product size, item code, a unique item ID, which is a universally unique ID, and then you're gonna need the price, currency, and whether the product is active, right? And then we may not need all of these values for the automation, but I kind of just put them there just in case, but I don't think we're going to be using many of them other than the item code and the product name and the ID number. But then we're going to use the order logs, and this is just something to keep track of the orders and the conversations in which the orders were placed. So just to show you, this is again just for logging purposes, just for record keeping. So you can see the session ID, the WhatsApp number that was used to place the order. You can also tie it to customer name, the order data, which is a JSON object that contains all of the order details, and then the rest is anything that's obtained from Xero, the quote ID, which is generated when the actual quote is generated, the quote number, which is another identifier used by Xero, invoice ID and number for when the quote has actually been approved and then the invoice gets generated, and then the status, which could be pending approval or sent or approved, etc., etc. Again, this could be depending on how you have your business set up. Okay, so for the Xero side of things, well, first of all, obviously you're going to need a Xero account. For this Xero account, I went ahead and created a demo company. And well, when you create a demo company on Xero, it kind of comes with some pre-made products, but I went ahead and created some as well, since for this example's sake, we're going to be pretending to create an automation for a company that sells office supplies. So I went and go ahead and created some sample products. I created a small box with the code box S. This code is actually important since that's how we're going to link the product to the order, and as well as this will be the value that's gonna get passed in between BotPress and N8N and Xero to be able to identify the product that's being ordered. And yeah, I created a product for boxes as well as medium and small poly mailers, and I already created this one for a tape as well. If you've never used Xero before, you can just go ahead and create a new item from here, clicking on the new item button, and here's the field for filling in the code, and then you just add the name for the product. Then depending on how you want to set up things, you can choose to track inventory, items, and purchases. We're not going to do that for this example, but we are going to track sales, so this is where you put in the price. And then for sales account, you want to select 200, and for tax rate, of course, you want to select the right option depending on how you handle your taxes. We're going to use none for this example, and then you hit save, or save and duplicate if you want to go ahead and create another product. And also for every order, for every invoice or quote, you do need to tie them to a customer. So you do need to have a profile for your customer here on Xero, and you can add in some information such as a phone number, company name, or the name of the person, address, etc. Now, the way you create a customer profile, you can either do it from the new contact button, or if you already have a database of customers elsewhere, you can choose the import option, and here are some instructions on how you can import your client database. Now, I'm going to show you later. Actually, the automation handles that in a way that, say, for example, if you're receiving an order from a new phone number and you've never received an order from that number before, the automation will create a new profile for that phone number. And the phone number is the actual ID number that's used to uniquely identify each customer, right? So if the automation is set up and is designed so that if an order comes in from a phone number that you've never received an order before, the automation will create a new profile for that phone number, so as to not impede the order from coming in. So, but it will generate a blank profile with nothing but a phone number. So you're gonna have to come in here and fill out the rest of the information for that customer. Or you could tackle this preemptively and say if you're taking on a new client, then you can have some sort of an onboarding process and then create a profile for that customer here on Xero, so that you already know who's going to be the one making the order when it comes in for the first time. And there is one more thing as well to set up the connection. And you're going to have to go to the developer platform for Xero, and you're going to have to create an app on the Xero side. And of course, you fill in the app name. When you want to create an app so that it can connect to N8N, do not use web app. It simply doesn't work. It creates an error. It took me several tries. You actually want to go for custom connection, and that's because for some reason working with web app, it throws an error, and N8N supposedly has some preset credentials for Xero, but it just doesn't work the way it currently set up. And I think it has to do with the fact that Xero has changed the way it handles permissions. So yeah, now it's changing to more granular permissions. So I think that's kind of the reason why the current web app doesn't work. So you have to create a custom connection and fill out the rest of the details. We'll be using to train AI. No. Understand if you agree to the security requirements. Yes. And for the company or application URL, you actually want to fill out the public domain for your N8N, and that's how you connect N8N to Xero. And of course, I already have created an app here. So here are the details, the name and the public URL for the N8N. And then you got to go to configuration, and this is actually quite important. This is where you set up the proper permissions, and you can change the permissions by going to edit authorization, and this is where you select the scopes. You could use pretty much the same scopes that you're seeing on screen right now. And then you may want to keep this around because we are going to be needing it later when we set up the connection on the N8N side, because when you pass the login details, you're going to be passing it an access token, and you're also going to need to pass the scopes, and it has to be the exact same scopes, and it has to also follow the exact same order. And that's how you're going to get your token with which you're going to be able to perform operations through the API. And of course, this is where you get the rest of the details. You can copy the client ID, which we're also going to need it to connect to the Xero API from the N8N side. And you generate a secret. Of course, it's not visible anymore. It's only visible at the time of creation. We're also going to need that as well. And then once again, the login URL for the launcher. which well, we're just gonna put in the public domain for N8N, and that should do it. Okay, so for the N8N setup, first and foremost, what we're going to do is we're going to set up the necessary credentials so that N8N can access all of the necessary platforms. Of course, we're going to need a connection for Xero, and for this, we're going to use for the user, you're actually going to fill out the client ID that was provided to you on your Xero account, and the password is going to be the client key that was generated. Next, we're going to also be using a password for the webhook, because the way we're going to get BotPress to communicate with N8N is going to be via a webhook, right? So anytime BotPress needs to make a call to N8N, it's going to do so by firing off a request to a webhook, which we're going to be setting up here on the N8N side. You want to secure that, since this is going to be out in the open, it's going to be in a public URL. You want to secure that with a password. So in this case, we're going to do it with a custom header. You give it, well, you can give it any name that you want. In this case, we use x-custom-pass. And then for the value, well, you make up the password, so it can be any password that you want it to be. And then we're also going to be needing access to an AI model, an LLM model. So you could use OpenRouter. It can be, again, it could be ChatGPT, could be Grok, DeepSeek, could be anyone that you like. I prefer to use OpenRouter because it offers a large selection of models, so you can try all the different models. And of course, just make sure that you can get an API key. This may vary depending on the platform that you use, but whichever platform you're using, you can refer to their documentation as to how you can obtain an API key, and that's what we're going to be using to connect to the AI from N8N. Just one more thing for the Supabase. Also, we're going to need to set up a connection, of course, so that N8N is able to add records to the tables on Supabase. So you're going to need a host and a service role secret, which is a password. And you get these from the Supabase side. You go to the home page on your database. In this case, the WhatsApp invoicing database. You're going to see the URL right directly below it. So then you just go ahead and copy that. And for the secret key, you're actually going to go right here on on Supabase. You're going to hit where is it? Oh, here it is. Yeah, you go to project settings, you go to API keys, and then you're gonna create a secret key, and we're gonna actually be using a secret key to connect to Supabase from N8N. And then so you generate the secret key, and then you copy it, and then you fill that up here as the service role secret. And that's gonna do it for the credentials that we're gonna need. And then we're gonna go ahead to the workflows. So I've grouped all of the necessary workflows here under WhatsApp invoicing. So we're actually gonna have 3 workflows. One is the actual order processing. This is the one that's gonna run every time a customer makes an order, and it's going to end with the quote being generated. And then the second workflow is going to be the approval processing, and this is once the quote gets generated, that's when management gets notified to their WhatsApp, and then they can approve the quote from their business phone, from WhatsApp. And of course, we're going to need this third one for Xero, and this is because of the way that Xero connections work. So fortunately, as of the time of the publication of this video, as I had explained earlier, the web app connection on the Xero side is not working with N8N, so we created what's called a custom connection. So that is going to require some extra work because of the way it's currently set up. Normally, if you use the Xero's pre-made integration on N8N, normally it would take care of refreshing the access token for you, but because it's not working properly, and that's actually because of the fault is on Xero's side because they've changed the way to connect. We actually used a custom connection, so because of that, we need to create we need to get an access token. So we're not gonna connect to the API directly with the client ID and secret, but rather we're gonna use those to get an access token, and then it's the access token that we're going to use to be able to interact with the API. And this, we're going to be using it, we're going to be calling this workflow from the other two workflows every time it runs. So that way we're guaranteed that, any unauthorized access within a time window, because each access token only has like a 30-minute time window, I believe. So yeah, so this is as you can see here, that's how the trigger works when executed by another workflow. And then we're gonna go ahead and call the Xero API. The URL to retrieve the access token is this one, identity.xero.com/connect/token. And then for the authentication, we're going to use a generic credential type. In this case, we already have one set up, basic auth, and we're going to use the Xero connection we created, the Xero credential. And then we're going to send headers, and we're going to send the body. For send headers, we just leave that checked. We're not going to really need to add any headers. So we're going to send body. This is actually important. And we're going to use a URL encoded form, and we're going to be defining the fields below. These are the two important ones. One is going to be the grant type with client credentials. And this, for the scope, this is actually the really important one, because we need to send a list of the scopes that we are asking to be authorized to interact with. And this is has to do with the granular scoping with the new way that the Xero API is set up. So this is what I had mentioned previously, that needs to perfectly match the scopes that were configured on the Xero side, and it has to match exactly. So not only do you need to have the exact same list as you have here, but it also needs to follow the exact order. So if you go here, we go back to N8N, you'll see that we have accounting attachments followed by contacts, read, etc. And then once we do that, we're going to be able to get an access token, and then we'll have N8N return the access token. And then it is with that, we're going to be calling this from the other two workflows anytime. We're going to run it once for every workflow, and then N8N with its workflows, it's going to be able to connect to Xero without any issues. So now we're going to go back to the other two main automations. We're going to look at the first one, which is the order processing. And I'm just going to give you a quick run through of how it works. So as you see, it starts with a webhook. So anytime a customer makes a call to, interacts with the chatbot at WordPress, and then WordPress, where the BotPress has finally collected all of the information that it needs, it's going to fire off a request to this webhook. And of course, we are going to define this on the BotPress side. We're going to need to provide it with a URL to be able to call. And we're going to use here, obviously for testing purposes, we're going to be using the test URL. But when you actually run it in production, you're going to have to set it up with the production URL. So then you see the URL right here. You're going to copy that, and then you get to paste it on BotPress. So you can, keep this on your notes or somewhere, because you're going to be using it. You copy it and paste it because you're going to be using it when it's time to set up BotPress. And of course, here it is, and the path is going to be /order process, just the name that I decided to give it. And then for authentication, it's going to be header auth, and then we're going to use the webhook testing credential we created just moments ago, and then we'll have it respond immediately anytime a request is sent to the webhook. We're just going to have the webhook simply return an OK, and then the workflow can be running without having BotPress wait for any response. Otherwise, it would take too long. So we're just going to have send the request back home with an OK sign, and then just have the workflows continue to do their thing. So then once we've received all of the information via the webhook, first we want to do is we want to log this to Supabase to make sure that the order has been received. So we're going to go ahead and again use the URL to which we're going to make the post, and then use a Supabase API credential. And then, well, these are some settings which you can get from the Supabase API. And this is the actual meat and bones. This is where you send all of the information to be included on the table. You're going to send a JSON object. It says session ID, the customer WhatsApp number, the customer name, the order data, the actual order items that are being requested. Here you just they're serialized into a JSON object, and we'll update it with a status of received. So this is just for logging, and this gets sent to Supabase. Then what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna look up the requested product on the product map table so that we could retrieve the code for the product. So once again, we use a GET request to Supabase, and then again the Supabase credentials, and then here are the parameters. Active equals true, size, the size of the product. Remember that we created a size column for the product, so this is going to help us do some filtering, and of course the product name. Right, and once we've able to find the product on the table, we're going to go to an if conditional. Let me zoom into that. So if the product that was requested not found on the product mapping table, then we're going to go ahead and log an error. Right, and then from this you can handle it in any way you want. You can have perhaps send an email, or notify anyone, hey, there was an issue with this order because it's not in our actual order database, in our actual product database. So yeah, from this you can, depending on your business, you can handle it accordingly. For now, we're just going to have it log the error to the Supabase order logs table. If the product actually was found, this is where we run the first workflow I showed you to get the access token for Xero, because now we're gonna go ahead and proceed to interact with Xero. And then we're gonna have so now we have the product info. We also want to get the customer info, or the contact info that's associated to the order that was placed, because we need to tell Xero who placed the order, and that's why I mentioned that earlier, that we need to have a a profile for the customer. So we're gonna go ahead and send the contact lookup, and we're actually going to look them up by their phone number, which is, as I had mentioned, the identifier for the customer profile. That's going to be the phone number. So we're going to go ahead and and the parameter that we send is a where clause in a kind of like a pseudo SQL format. So each customer profile can have up to 4 phone numbers stored in them. So we're going to search for any phone number that could be stored on any of the 4 possible columns for that customer, right? So any customer that has that phone number, it's going to return any results, again, because each customer can have up to 4 phone numbers associated. All right, so this is going to guarantee that we get a profile if that phone number is stored anywhere. If even then there is no customer profile, we have nobody associated with that phone number at all, then we're going to run an if statement. If the contact was found, then simply we're going to pass along all of the contact details. If it wasn't found, then we're going to go ahead and create the contact on the Xero side. So as again, we post to Xero API contacts, and we pass along all of the details, especially this time only the phone number. All right. And then if the new profile gets created, you are going to have to go to the Xero account on your side, and then you're going to have to fill out the rest of the information. If you want to fill in a customer name, what's any company name, address, what have you. And then once again, we're going to set those values to a to some variable name so that you can then consolidate. And we're going to use this to merge, so essentially to consolidate everything into just one set of values, regardless of whether the customer already existed or not. Right? So then we have some consistent values for the rest of the automation. And then, well, once we have we have found the product on the Xero side, and we have this product on our system, and we already have now that we have guaranteed that we have a profile for the customer, then we can finally proceed and create the quote. So yeah, we're gonna call the API for the quotes on Xero. Again, for the headers, you're actually gonna go ahead and send the bearer token that's returned from the workflow that we used, remember, to get the access token from Xero. This is how we're gonna send it. You just send an authorization header with a bearer space and the token itself. Right? And we're gonna be sending the request in JSON format. Here it is. We're gonna send all of the order details, contact ID, which is the one that we just created, the profile for the customer, the line items, such as item code, the description, the label, etc., the quantity, the unit amount, the account code 200. Remember when we created the products, we added them to Xero. We need to add them to the 200 account code for managing everything that is sales. Of course, you want to add the date, expiration date, and we're creating the quote initially as a draft. And then, of course, currency, US dollars, and title and a summary. And we're just gonna flag it here that the order was placed via WhatsApp. And then once the quote gets created, once again, we're gonna update it on Supabase. So we're actually not gonna create a new row, we're actually gonna update. So that's why we're gonna set up a method patch. So this is going to update a pre-existing row. Remember that we already logged this order at the beginning with a status of pending. So now we're gonna update it with a status of quote created. All right. Then we're gonna go ahead and fetch the quote from once once the quote has been created and logged, we're going to go ahead and fetch the quote to make sure we have all of the information. And then we're going to go ahead and send it to management. And for this, we're actually going to send to, you're going to use the WhatsApp API, which is accessed via graph.facebook.com. The actual URL depends on your account, so we're actually going to get to that in a little bit. But then, yeah, you have to use your own access tokens and set all of that up. And to send a message on WhatsApp, we're going to need this information. All of this is specified on the Meta API documentation. So yeah, you send the messaging product, in this case WhatsApp, the number you are sending the text to. It's a text type message. Preview URL, that's optional. You know, if you set it to true, like if there's a URL or a link within the text, then it's going to show a preview for that URL. If set to false, then it's going to show the text only. And then the body, which is the actual body of the text that you're going to be sending. In this case, it's going to be a summary of what was ordered. And then, yeah, you can reply with yes, no, or escalate. And then we're going to go ahead and once again go to a Supabase and update the order to show that it's pending approval. It's been created, now we just need for it to be approved, so we're going to update it with a status of pending approval. And that does it for the order side. And then finally for the approval processing. So once the management, once the business side gets the text message, we are going to go ahead and this is where they reply to BotPress, and once the information is received, it's going to send to the webhook. Where's the, oh, here it is. So again, we're going to set up a webhook with any password that you want. You could even use the same credential that was created earlier. We're going to go ahead and look it up on Supabase, the order logs. So just to make sure we have all of the necessary information. And yeah, the way we're going to look it up was going to be through the session ID, which is once when the order is created on the by the customer, we randomly create an ID that it gets logged into Supabase, and that's how we're going to know both the business side and the client are referring to the same order, right? Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start calling Xero. So then this is like the actual meat and potatoes of this automation. So now we're going to start updating the info on Xero. We're going to go ahead and get the access token so that we can interact with it. And here's the important part. So right, this is where it depends on whether the management side approved, rejected, or escalated the quote. So if it gets there are three choices, right? There's yes, no, and escalated. That's the way I've set it up. So if it gets escalated, it's simply gonna go to here and it's gonna execute this branch. And what it's gonna do is, in this case, it's simply going to update the Supabase row. It's gonna get logged that the order was rejected effectively, and it's going to be escalated. And what this means is that essentially you want someone on the business side to manually review it, right? It's not, if it gets approved, it gets immediately invoiced. If it doesn't, well, if the answer is no with a feedback, then that's when we go ahead and do the modifications to the quote. But if it's escalated, it means the answer is not so simple. We're gonna manually review it. So from here, what I'm simply doing is logging it. But from here, we can go anywhere. You can have the automation send a Slack message or send an email to the necessary people and say, hey, listen, here's an unusual order. I need you to manually review it before we can actually create an invoice for it or send an invoice to the customer. But for this demo, we're simply gonna create a log. Okay, we're gonna update the row saying this order has been escalated for manual review. The branch Xero, this is for if it was approved. If the quote gets generated and the management approved it, then it's pretty straightforward. We call the Xero API to accept the quote, and then we go ahead and call the Xero API to actually generate an invoice. What we had created previously was a quote, and now we're going to actually go ahead and create an invoice. So we're going to call a slightly different URL, api.xero/invoices. And again, we send all of the necessary JSON details, which you can find on the Xero API documentation. But it's not so different from creating a quote. A contact ID, which is a customer profile, along with the items that are being placed for an order with the status of authorized, etc., etc. And then you can do many things like fetch a PDF of the invoice. The Xero API actually does give you the option to generate an invoice for the PDF. A PDF of the invoice. And so we can finally go to Supabase and just update the log registry saying that the invoice has been created. It has finally been approved, and then you can move forward as you wish. But then here's where it gets interesting. If management gets notified that an order has been placed and they answer no with a feedback, and again, this is for those cases when, let's say, an order has been placed, but we actually want to change some things about it, like, say, for example, this is a frequent customer, we're going to give them a discount, 10-15% or something like that. Or let's say they want to order 100 of one product, but we only have 80, so bring down the amount of products to only 80. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the quote information from Xero. We're going to pass this information along to AI, and this is where it gets interesting. So we're going to use, obviously we need to connect it to an AI model. In this case, it's going to be Open Router. And then we can choose which model we want to use. And then we add the prompt here on the agent side. Let me see if I can zoom this up. And the prompt isn't that difficult. It's simply to kind of format and structure the information that was provided. You are a structured data extractor. Please parse the feedback and return only valid JSON with this exact schema. The action could be a discount, a change quantity, change item, or unknown. The value can be a number or a string. No preamble, no explanations, just the JSON. And then we can select this from the tools. We can select an output parser. This is only an extra layer of security to make sure that the JSON that is returned and follows an exact JSON structure. And then this is the part that requires a little bit of coding. This is where we're going to apply the delta, because depending on what was requested, if somebody wants to, for example, apply a discount, then okay, we need to go by the items and we need to make sure that we alter the prices applying the discount that was authorized, right? And this we eventually will update the variable values, and this is what essentially going to get finally sent. This is the node where the quote gets updated on Xero once the discount has been applied. So we sent another request for that specific quote using the quote ID that was provided by Xero. And once again, we sent the values, quote ID, contact, etc., line items, and bow. And from here, you proceed in any way that you want. From here, you can just go ahead and actually, once the quote has been updated, then you can proceed to create an invoice, right? And then you can decide to proceed as you wish. So that's how it does it. And now I'm going to show you what we need to do on the BotPress side. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the setup for the actual chatbot on BotPress, and to show you how the conversation is going to flow, and then how the N8N workflows get called depending on the information that was collected, right? So yeah, somebody first sends a message to BotPress, usually just hi, right? And then BotPress, you go ahead and create this card to check for business hours. You use JavaScript to check with the current date and time, to check it is within business hours. In this case, I made sure that it is within 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., which is the time window for receiving orders. If it is outside of that time window, then the chatbot simply returns a message that says, sorry, our warehouse is currently closed, these are opening hours, etc., etc. Yeah, if it is within the time window and it's on a business day, then it's gonna go ahead and go on to the next card. And if the user is, oh yeah, by the way, so yeah, obviously if the message was sent outside of business hours, then you'll see this little line here that means it only takes you straight to the end of the conversation, since there's nothing else to do because it is outside of business hours, right? So, but if it is within business hours, then we go ahead and we're going to check the number that it came from to see if the message is coming from the management side or from a client or a potential client, right? If it is from management, if it is from one of our phone numbers, one of the company's phone numbers, then it's going to go ahead and call the management approval workflow, which we'll get into in just a moment. Here it is right here. But if it is from a customer, then it goes ahead and asks some questions. First, we're going to ask what's the product you would like to order. And here are some options you can set, if it's a poly mailer, boxes, or tape, right? Then the customer responds with the correct choice. And then, then you go on to select a size for the product. So yeah, if it's a product that only has one standard size, like for example the tape or the boxes for these examples, then it just goes ahead and continues with the conversation. This is just a block to set the standard sizes for the products that only have one size, and then it goes ahead to ask for the quantity. But before that, if it is a product that has more than one size, say for example the poly mailer, then it goes ahead and asks another question. Okay, which size poly mailer are you going to want? 25 by 35 or 32 by 45, right? Then it captures that information, and then it takes you to ask for the quantity. You know, how many would you like to order? And once you input the amount that you'd like to order, then it goes ahead and summarizes the order, product size, and quantity. And again, this current demo, it's only for ordering one item at a time. But if you wanna be able to order different amounts of different products, that can be done. Of course, that would have to you would have to essentially loop around these last three questions, depending on what's being ordered. But for simplicity's sake, for this demo, we're just gonna order one thing at a time, right? So here's a little card to summarize the order, the product, the size, the quantity, and then confirming your order. Please wait while we prepare your quote. And this is the part of the workflow that actually from BotPress that actually calls N8N, right? So we have this card which allows us to generate an ID. We just assign it a variable name here, the session ID, and this is what we're going to use to uniquely identify each conversation. Especially, comes especially useful from the Supabase side, since that's how the orders get logged and updated, and that's how both the customer side and the management side we both know how they're both referencing the same order, right? So we use the session ID to to make it easier to identify, regardless of whether the order is being updated from the customer side or from the management side. And then once the unique ID number gets generated, this is where we actually call N8N, right? So this is where you put all of the details to be able to call N8N, and you input the URL, which is the URL, the webhook URL value that we copied from the N8N setup. Make sure that you select post as the method, and then for the headers, you go ahead and add the custom password that you created. Remember, we created a custom password under the header name x-custom.pass. So then you add that password. It has to be in JSON format. And then for the body, that's the actual payload. That's the one that contains all of the information pertaining to the order, the session ID, the WhatsApp number. You can put in the order, items, and the date, timestamp, etc. And this is when it fires off and it hands off all of the information to N8N to further process the order, right? And then once the information gets sent to N8N, then it simply returns a message to the customer saying your quote is being prepared and sent to our team for approval. We'll send you the final invoice once it's confirmed. Thank you. And the conversation is ended, right? And that does it for the customer conversation flow. And we're gonna go ahead and show you what the management approval flow looks like. So obviously, if a message comes from one of our managers from the admin side, then we're gonna go ahead and execute the management conversation flow, and here it is. So, and the way this works is that, well, it receives the decision, whether it was a yes, no, or escalate, right? Remember? And then this is where we're gonna filter out depending on what the answer was. If the answer was yes or escalate, then we don't really need to take any feedback. So then we're just gonna go ahead and send it off to N8N. But this time we're gonna be calling the other workflow, the the order approval workflow. Again, similar to the previous HTTP request, we'll fill in the URL, but remember that this time this is going to be the URL for the webhook for the approval workflow, not the order processing workflow, right? And then once again, method post, and then the custom password you created, and then once again the payload, the session ID, the decision that was made, if it was yes, no, or escalate. And if it was a feedback, in the case of a no answer, then we'll add what was the feedback, right? So I'm just going to circle back to that in just a moment. So, yeah, so in case the answer was no, which is what we're checking here, if it was rejected, no means rejected, right? So then that's going to take you to the get feedback, right? So, all right, so if remember that if the answer is a no, it's not a complete no. It's just we're going to make a modification to the order, whether it's a discount, the number of items, or yada yada. So then we're going to ask, okay, well, please provide some feedback. And management gets this message back on their WhatsApp, and they say, okay, well, what's the reason for the no? And then we're going to say something like, provide a discount. This is a good customer, made a big order. Let's give him a 10% discount. So then you can just simply text in your own words, give a 10% discount. And then that is going to be stored into a feedback variable. And then, only then, when the answer is no and the feedback has been provided, the webhook, the request gets sent to the N8N webhook. And then, yeah. So, this is the message in case once everything has been sent, if the answer was escalate, the order has been flagged for manual review, staff has been notified, that's the answer that's going to be returned. If it was rejected, then understood, the invoice will be generated based on your feedback. Or if it was approved with only a yes, then got it, the invoice is being generated and sent to the customer now. And the conversation ends, right? And that's all you need for the setup on the BotPress side. Okay, so now for the setup on the WhatsApp side, or should I say Meta, what we actually need to do is we do need to create an app, right, so that we can connect WhatsApp to BotPress, right? So this is pretty much when we create an app, we're gonna create like a little container which is gonna contain the credentials to connect WhatsApp to BotPress, right? So for to set up the Meta side, you are gonna need to fill in some information. You're gonna fill out your app name. It could be anything, my app 123, whatever. Then you add your contact email. You hit next, and in here, well, the important part is you want to select the last option, the one that says connect with customers through WhatsApp. That's the only one you're gonna need. And then you go ahead and hit next, and then you're gonna have to fill out some more information, such as your business information and etc., etc. And then you just follow the steps there with all the required info, and then you're gonna have an app with which you can set up to connect WhatsApp and BotPress, right? In this case, I already created this one. This is the one I'm currently using, so we're gonna go ahead and click on that, and I'm gonna show you how to set that up. All right, because in order to connect WhatsApp and BotPress, you need to go to BotPress, right? And you're gonna hit integrations or installed integrations. And well, in my case, I already have WhatsApp here, but chances are you may not have it if you've never connected WhatsApp before. So what you do is you go here to find more on the hub, the integration hub. And you usually find it here amongst the first ones, the most popular ones. Or if not, you can just search for it by hitting WhatsApp. And it should pop up right there. All right. And then you click on it and it's gonna get installed, and then it should appear on your list of integrations, right, like this. And then what we're gonna do here is we are going to use the manual configuration for the Meta app, right? And then in here, we need to fill out these 5 fields to be able to connect to the WhatsApp app which we just created, right? And then we save the configuration, and then that'll be that. The WhatsApp will be connected to BotPress. So what we need is, how are we gonna find these 5 values? I'm about to show you how to do just that. So first, okay, you're gonna need, you go to set up the connections, you go to connections, right? But you're gonna need something here from configuration. This is a webhook URL. Now, the previous webhooks we've set up before were to connect N8N and BotPress, but this is a webhook URL to connect BotPress to WhatsApp, right? So we're going to be needing this value shortly when we set it up on the meta side. And then we're going to need all of this info. Right, so we are going to go back to the meta admin. We have our app details here. So we're going to go ahead and click on use cases. And there you should see the connect customers through WhatsApp. We're going to go ahead and click on customize. Could take a while to load. This is a little bit heavy. The meta admin can be complicated a bit at times. So now that the alright, we should see the overview just over here, and it should show you the step-by-step on how to set it up. So yeah, in here you want to leave it as integrate with API, and then we're going to go ahead and try it out. And the first are a few steps to actually test the connection, which I recommend before you just go ahead and try to connect it to your production WhatsApp number directly. Yeah, you definitely want to run some tests first. So there you go. One cool thing about Meta is that they actually provide you some free test numbers that you can use for testing the connection. Right, so here you already have two of those values, the phone number ID and the WhatsApp business account ID. So we're going to copy those, right? So we're going to go back to BotPress. So the phone number ID goes here, phone number ID. And the WhatsApp business account ID goes right under it, under the WABA ID. Now the verified token, this one you actually make it up yourself, right? So it could be anything that you want. In this case, you know, it could be something like WhatsApp 1 2 3 4 5, you know, just for example. And yeah, now we're gonna need the access token and the client secret. We'll get to those in a bit. All right, so the access token is actually right here, and you have it generated. Yes, the Meta business account may actually ask you to reconnect, and sometimes it'll ask you to enter your password, and it'll give you the access token. So then here's a button to copy the token, and we come and place it here. And you paste it. And finally, for the client secret, you actually go to app settings basic, and it's this app secret form field you see right here. You're going to click on show, and it will show you, because right now it only shows like encrypted, kind of like a password, but you click on show and it's going to show you the actual app secret. And you depending on how long you haven't been using the Meta app, it may also ask you for a password. So you're gonna have to enter your Facebook password before it shows you the app secret. But once it shows it to you, actually I'm gonna go ahead and see if it shows, and it shows. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Then I will paste it here. And then you hit on save configuration, and you should see that the connection was successful. There you go. Now it may not work, because I just remembered there is one more detail we need to do, and that's actually the verified token which we created. You know, WhatsApp 1 2 3 4 5 for this example's sake. We actually need to come and set it up, and that's actually the last part which I need to stress out for setting up the webhook. To finish setting up the webhook connection, and then finally be able to use it. And that's at the production setup. And that's important because for that, this is the part where you're gonna have to link the your actual real business phone number. Because remember, right now we only set it up with a testing phone number. The testing phone number, as the name implies, you can use it for testing. But it's severely limited. Don't think that you can use the test number, as your full dedicated phone number for managing your chatbot, because it has a lot of limitations. There's only so many messages you can send in a specified window of time. I don't exactly know what the window of time is, but maybe it's in the documentation. I'm not really sure. But this is what I wanted to bring your attention to right now. When you go to production setup, you need to set up the callback URL and the verified token, and this is where you paste, the verified token that you came up with back on BotPress. So WhatsApp 12345, etc. And then you copy the callback URL, which was this one right here. All right, just to be sure. We're gonna hit paste. There you go. And then you're gonna hit verify and save. And it should work. It's gotta take a moment. All right, there it is. And it's working, and it's gonna take you now to set up some permissions. Usually what's already selected already works. So we go to configure webhooks, and you can see that it has been properly configured. And finally, this is the most important part. Remember that right now we've only set it up. So everything is hooked up the way it should be, but remember that it's currently hooked up with a test phone number. All right, when you actually use this for production to actually take orders from your clients, you're gonna have to use a real phone number, right? So that is what this production setup is for. You're gonna go ahead and click on add a new number, and this is where you select, this is where you have to fill in some information about your business, the business name, how the business name is gonna be displayed on WhatsApp. You select the time zone, the category, and then you follow the instructions there to add the phone number. And then you're gonna have to verify the phone number. You just follow the instructions here, and you'll be able to use that number to hook it up with your BotPress chatbot. But just keep in mind that you will be required to verify your business. So make sure that your business is verified with Facebook, or otherwise you're not going to be able to use the number. So you need to go to a business verification on the Facebook side. Once you register the number, it's here. Business verification. Yeah, you go to step 3. And that is where you need to submit some details, such as tax ID, etc. And then you begin the verification process. You may need to upload some documents to, verify your business and whatnot. But once your business has been verified, then you can use the production number to take in the orders and use it on your BotPress with your BotPress chatbot. That'll be all.